Hello and welcome to Freedom News, the news you can use to help keep Canada free. From the National Post, did Justin Trudeau break the law by kicking Jody Wilson-Raybould and Jane Philpott out of caucus? I personally think so. Former Cabinet Minister Jane Philpott rose in the House of Commons Tuesday morning to speak on a point of privilege, asking the Speaker of the House of Commons to consider whether Prime Minister Justin Trudeau violated the law by unilaterally removing her and former Attorney General Jody Wilson-Raybould from the Liberal Party caucus last week. She appealed to Speaker Jeff Regan to rule that their rights had been denied and their privileges as members of Parliament breached on the basis of the 2015 Reform Act, which set rules around the administration of party caucuses. This matter is urgent. Procedural fairness and the rule of law demand this. Secret in-camera meetings or private notices should not be a shield to prevent the upholding the law and members' rights, Philpott told the Commons. This is very concerning. It speaks to the rule of law at the heart of our democracy, Conservative MP Michael Chong, who authored the Reform Act, told the National Post in an interview shortly after she made her arguments. So what is this? So what exactly is this all about? Just how did the ouster from caucus go down last week? In a brief speech last Tuesday, Trudeau announced his decision to remove Philpott and Wilson-Raybould from caucus after both resigned from cabinet in the wake of the SNC-Lavalin scandal. Wilson-Raybould testified that Trudeau and his top officials tried pressuring her for political reasons to cut a deal for Montreal engineering firm SNC-Lavalin so it could avoid criminal prosecution for fraud and bribery. Both initially stayed members of the Liberal caucus, citing their faith in the party's policy despite a lack of confidence in the Prime Minister's handling of the affair. But Trudeau said last week the caucus had lost trust in the two former ministers. We've taken every effort to address their concerns, but ultimately, if they can't honestly say that they have confidence in this team despite weeks of testimony, face-to-face conversations, and phone calls with myself and other members of caucus, then they cannot be part of this team. That's a quote directly from the sock boy himself, Prime Minister. Trudeau announced the decision was his own, and Philpott argued Tuesday Liberal MPs never had a chance to have their say, even though the Parliament of Canada Act was amended in 2015 with Chong's Reform Act so that these types of situations could be avoided. What exactly does the Reform Act say about this? The Reform Act, which amended the Canada Elections Act and the Parliament of Canada Act, spells out rules around expulsions and readmissions of caucus members, the election or removal of caucus chairs, leadership reviews, and the election of interim leaders. The act requires caucuses after each general election to hold 4 votes on whether or not a majority of MPs in each party wants to abide by the rules it sets out in its 4 topics. Neither the Liberals nor the NDP did so after the 2015 election. I'm going to pause right here on this article to state that by not holding these votes at all, then logically they submit to the default that the law of the land applies, which of course is not what the Liberal Party is saying. That they say that the default to their norms applies. Well, sorry, no. Again, we have a problem with the Liberal Party saying that the law of the land does not apply to them. Continue on with this article. On expulsions, here's what it has to say. A member of caucus can only be expelled according to the Reform Act if The caucus chair has received a written notice signed by at least 20% of the members of the caucus requesting that the membership be reviewed, and if the expulsion of the member is approved by secret ballot by a majority of all caucus members. Neither of those things happened in this case. As I said before, they refused to have a vote in the first place, so by default, they are bound by the law. Philpott said it would have taken a recorded vote in which 90 Liberal members voted to expel her and Wilson-Raybould, according to the rules laid out in the law. Yet, no such vote took place. We were expelled prior to the commencement of the Liberal caucus meeting, she argued in the House Tuesday. To fail to allow Liberal MPs to vote on those rules was inherently an illegal act, said Chong. Interesting. It's not a matter of they have no choice. They have to vote. That in itself is a violation of the law. I've been concerned about it for 3.5 years, he said, since the Liberals held their first caucus meeting without recording those votes and reporting the results to the Speaker, which the law required them to do. So, not up to them to decide whether to even have those votes or not. The votes are required by law. It's now come to fruition with the 2 questionable expulsions last week. So, does Philpott have a point? What she's arguing is that Trudeau breached the privileges of his Liberal MPs by not allowing them to vote on the administration of their own caucus back in November 2015, after the federal election, in accordance with the law. My argument would be that due to the breach of the law at the very beginning of this government's term, that in itself, in my opinion, would constitute an illegitimate government right then and there. In accordance with the law. As a result, she is arguing Philpott's and Wilson-Raybould's privileges were breached when Trudeau made a unilateral decision to remove them, and the rights of the entire Liberal caucus were breached because they didn't have an opportunity to vote on that decision by secret ballot. Chong said Philpott spoke with him about the topic before going ahead with her arguments on Tuesday morning, and he told the Post he is fully on board with them. This point of privilege she has raised is vitally important because if there is no recourse here to enforce the rights of members, there is no other place, he said. Courts have repeatedly ruled they do not have jurisdiction over matters of parliamentary administration, so he believes this is the only way for it to be enforced. The only recourse we have to uphold the rule of law is to ensure that the law is followed in the House of Commons. Its parliamentary parties and committees is in the House of Commons and by appealing to the Speaker. So what has the Speaker said about this? 2 weeks ago, a Conservative MP raised similar issues when he complained that it seemed MP Selena Cesar Chavanis had resigned from the Liberal caucus because she was forced out. Had the Reform Act rules been in place, he argued, there would have had to have been a vote. If you, Mr. Speaker, decline to exercise jurisdiction to entertain breaches of the statute here, then the members of caucuses like the Liberal caucus who flagrantly ignore the law have no protection and no recourse when their rights are trampled. Because of the lack of judicial recourse, general restraint on speakers interpreting the law, and the House's privilege to manage internal affairs, I respectfully submit that submit that the way forward, indeed, the only way forward, is to allow the House to deal with this matter, John Nader argued. Cesar Chavez ultimately confirmed that she had left on her own accord, and the Speaker had come back on Monday, the day before Philpott made her arguments, with a ruling that he didn't have the jurisdiction anyway. As relayed by Deputy Speaker Bruce Stanton, Regan's ruling said asking the House to deal with an expulsion from caucus was not a proper subject for a question of privilege. Further, I, as Speaker, have no role in the interpretation of statute nor in the conduct of these 2015 provisions. Philpott acknowledged that ruling on Tuesday morning, but with respect, it is our view that this does not relieve you of your responsibility to ensure that all members are aware of their rights in this place. This is our privilege. Accordingly, a remedy is required for our situation, she said. Regan responded, well, I am left with the difficulty, as I said in my ruling yesterday, that the Speaker does not have the power to enforce statutes. I will certainly consider her argument and come back to the House. So now what happens? The House will have to wait for Regan to come back with an opinion on the issue. If he does find a prima facie breach of privilege, Philpott will be able to move that the matter be referred to a parliamentary committee. Liberals have a majority in the House and on committees, including the two committees that recently decided not to pursue any further investigation of the SNC-Lavalin issue. Asked whether he's hopeful that some of them will vote to look at what happened here, Trump said, we have to try. We can't give up. I hope that our House of Commons is strong enough to abdicate this and to seek justice. The ruling has come back from the Speaker, and I will proceed to show you that very ruling. I will, of course, endeavor to bring to you the ruling of the Speaker on this issue when it does indeed occur. Well, that's all I have for today. Like if you like, share, comment, and of course, subscribe. And remember, working together, we can help keep Canada free. Thank you, and have a good day.